I don't think words are enough anymore. I think that there needs to be some kind of action, and I'm not sure what it is, but what I find interesting is the gun violence in Chicago is a reality. What you're seeing going on in America is a racial hysteria. So why is one gaining attention and the other isn't? And I believe that the worst thing a black community can do as a whole is take advice from coddled, white, over-caffeinated, over-educated, under-experienced, left-wing individuals. Because look at the consequences. The black-on-black crime or the gang violence and the gun violence is ignored, but everybody's running around tearing down statues. So I want to end the race war that we seem to be experiencing today. I'm going to blow your mind with this, okay? There are more differences and conflict within whites than there are between whites and blacks. There are more conflicts and differences between whites than there are between whites and blacks. When you look at those pasty white wimps out there running around vandalizing and destroying property, I realize that I have absolutely nothing in common with these laughable losers. And in fact, when anybody looks at the TV, they realize they have nothing in common as a white person with these failures. So it's insulting to me, and it should be insulting to every white person, that you think that race binds us. It doesn't bind us. I have more in common with black winners than white losers. And that's the truth of all human beings. What ties us together is achievement and not grievance. So white winners and black winners are on the same side, and stay away from the white losers because they are poisoning the minds of everybody. That will end racism if all the winners of every race and color join together and laugh at the losers.
Yeah, I like that idea. Juan Williams, we talked about it yesterday. BET founder saying that a lot of black Americans just laugh at these, as Greg would say, pasty white losers tearing down statues and canceling TV shows because they think, you know, that doesn't mean much.
Well, I'm here to defend my white brothers. This is really wild. Look, I think what's going on here is President Trump is desperate. His poll numbers have cratered. And when he was asked last night on Sean Hannity's town hall meeting, you know, what's coming next? What's your message? What's your agenda? He really didn't have much to say. He says he's experienced, he's great, everything will be great. So what he does, Jesse, is he takes a few instances of looting or bad behavior and he blows it up. Suddenly, cities are war zones. Afghanistan. Suddenly, these people are terrorists. They're so powerful. They're threatening our social fabric. I mean, the reality is that his messaging
well, Juan,
is
I mean, I think if you lived in Minneapolis, Minnesota, you'd probably agree that it did look like a war zone because everything's on fire and it cost $1 billion in damage.
Now, look, you can keep showing the same footage again and again and again. But let me just say,
it's real.
Don't trust me on this. Don't trust me. Listen to the Wall Street Journal. In their lead editorial this morning, they said Trump is headed for a historic loss as millions of Americans are close to saying that they can't risk 4 more years of this. They can't stand it. They're talking about suburbanites. They're talking about women. They're even talking about seniors abandoning Trump. And I think that's why he's engaged in this kind of horrible imagery and language, because he doesn't have a message.
He's not killing people in Chicago. Well, he's not looting, Juan. These things are actually real. They're not fantasies. True, he could do a better job. He could do a better job facing these problems. We agree with that. But you can't lay those problems on him as somehow he's conjuring this stuff up in order to win an election. This stuff is real. People are suffering, Juan. They're suffering in Chicago. They're suffering in Minneapolis. They're suffering in New York. They're suffering in Atlanta. They're suffering in Dallas. They're suffering in California. And you go, isolated incidents? Wake up, Juan. You got to wake up to this and start helping your party face the truth.
Well, I think the truth is we've had black-on-black crime in this country for a long time, and I think the incumbent is Donald Trump. If he was about healing, reconciliation, if he was doing something to deal with those problems, maybe he'd have a better case. Maybe he'd have something to say about bringing Americans together. But he doesn't have anything
Okay, let's
to say,
move it
so he's
to
back
Emily
to
because
American
the president has
carnage and back
pushed
to
police
Afghanistan.
reform and the Democrats rejected it.
Greg Gutfeld here is absolutely right. Juan is totally missing the point, and he's doing exactly what the left-wing media did all through the riots of 2020, tried to play it down, tried to pretend that Antifa and BLM weren't violent extremist groups that were looting American cities and attacking police officers, attacking journalists. I was there on the ground and saw it firsthand in Washington, D.C. Riots, looting, total carnage. The police could barely keep things, could barely hold together civilization. And of course, the Dems and the people on the left didn't want to admit that this was actually happening, because how does that make them look, right? That's people on their side. I mean, instead of owning up to it and saying, hey, look, there's these extremists that are destroying cities, doing millions in property damage, and we disown that, they denied that it even happened. There's the famous clip of the reporter, I think it was an MSNBC reporter with the burning restaurant behind him, and he goes, oh, these are mostly peaceful protests, mostly peaceful, mostly peaceful. That's what they kept saying. America can never forget what really happened in the summer of 2020 and how the media worked in conjunction with the Democrat Party to cover up absurd violence across the country.